So this is question 16 to question 20 in homework 6. Let's look at question 16. The price elasticity of supply for a good is 3. If a what? How much is increase or decrease? Basically a magnitude and a direction, right? In price, all right? Price change somewhat at what magnitude, right? Leads to a 3% decrease in the quantity supplied. So let's do the calculation. Still we have this price elasticity of supply, and it's still kind of the change in quantity supplied divided by the percentage change in the price, and that is 3. That's the given, what's given, and we want a 3% decrease. Anyway, it's 3% change in the quantity supplied divided by, we want to know, right, what is the percentage change in the price, and that equal to 3. What we do is basically solve this equation, and that is, I will write the percentage in change in the price, right, is because this one is in the denominator, I need to time a percentage in change in the price on both sides, and at the same time divide 3 on both sides. So anyway, if you know how to solve this one, it's an equation. It's 3% divided by 3. Okay, do that. And now we know what the supply curve that we are considering is a positively sloped curve. Okay, so the for supply, right, price and quantity supplied change in the same direction. So there's a decrease in the quantity supplied. In other words, if I put this one, right, say it's negative 3%, and I just need to carry this one over to negative 3%. So the change is negative 1%, or say 1% increase. It's straightforward. Okay, let's look at question 17. Which goods is or are most likely to have a vertical supply curve? Vertical supply curve, inelastic supply. All right, inelastic supply. The point is, if it is inelastic, just perfectly inelastic, then it's the vertical. No matter its supply or demand, as long as it's vertical, then you got perfectly inelastic supply or demand. When it's flat, right, the perfectly elastic supply looks like this, and then if it looks like that, it can be a perfectly elastic demand, but basically theoretically it's the flat one. The one that is horizontal has perfect elasticity, right? Doesn't matter whether it's supply or demand, as long as it's flat, horizontal, it's perfectly elastic. As long as it's vertical, it's perfectly inelastic. Now let's look at all these items. Salt, you can get it from wells on the land. There are some mines you can get salt from. You can get, of course, from the sea salt, right? All this salt, very easy to produce. Not doesn't cost a lot, so it won't have this kind of inelastic supply, perfectly inelastic supply. Oil, technically, we have limited supply, right? And for a while, towards the end of year 2000 or earlier this century, people were thinking about, we are running out of oil and everything like that. The oil price goes to like $200 per barrel for crude oil, and then we have the fracking boom. Um, Oil now the U.S., the United States, is a oil exporter in the world. So given long enough time, you have new technology extract oil. They literally extract oil from stones, right? It's quite amazing. Um, that's elastic supply. C, insulin. The inelastic part about insulin is the demand. If some diabetic patients they need injection of insulin, they need it right on the spot. It's inelastic demand. It's not inelastic supply. You can, this chemical, it's or hormone, it's man-made. So insulin is not um, inelastic. It can be very elastic. Now, paintings by Van Gogh. Van Gogh has passed away, so it doesn't matter. Let me just say this is my price. I get a different color, say like this blue. Okay, so you can, of course, nowadays Van Gogh's painting worth a lot, right? You can decrease the price, you can increase the price. The supply is limited because he's no longer here. He can no longer produce more paintings. All right, that's the thing. So obviously, which one has a vertical supply curve. Now let's look at question 18. The long run price elasticity of supply of crude oil is greater than, less than, equal to, not compared to the short run price elasticity of supply of crude oil. Now, for both supply and demand, the longer the time, the higher the elasticity. Okay, so this one's easier to understand, and the story I just talked about in question 17 actually answered the reason, right? Why you have more time, then the price elasticity of crude oil actually is higher, meaning that right after the $200 per barrel, the crude oil price in year 2020, earlier this year, right, in I think in March, it actually went negative in the commodities market in the US. So anyway, the point is that with the technology discovery, all that, um, at least for now, we have ample supply of crude oil again. At least like maybe almost 20 years ago, or say around the year 2000, they're serious thinking about we are running out of oil. All right, now let's look at question 19. It is very difficult for Julia to find inexpensive inputs for her business. Because of this, we predict that Julia's price elasticity of supply is what? Now, this question is very interesting because it shows us the important aspect of supply. What we are considering for this elasticity story for the demand, we are talking about, let's see, this demand curves. Okay, these demand curves. If you have price, we are thinking about whether if I decrease my price, right, decrease the price, the quantity will increase and my total revenue can increase. That's sort of the main concern there, right? Whether decreasing the price has a beneficial effect on my total revenue. That is for demand. It's mainly concerned about decreasing in price. But for supply, we are thinking about higher price. Whether the market, let's say the market want more of this product, right? So the market want to offer a higher price level from low, from this position to high, a higher position, right? The market want to pay higher price to solicit more quantity supplied, but for inelastic supply, that won't happen. Okay, the change in quantity supplied won't increase a lot. That what I'm saying is basically the price changes under consideration for demand, it is decreasing in price. Okay, lower price like this. For supply, it is higher price like that. So anyway, um, if the inputs are hard to find, okay, and they are very expensive, it doesn't matter how much you increase the price you pay, you won't get a lot of more of these goods supplied to the market. That is the basic idea. Okay. Of course, you can think about a price drop. Price drop in this case, right? If the price drops so much, Julia may stop supplying these goods to the market. It's just because it cannot cover the cost of the very expensive inputs, right? Hard to find inexpensive inputs means she has very expensive inputs. So in that consideration, it is kind of elastic, but the real concern is whether by increasing the price we pay on these goods, we can get more of these goods supplied to the market. So in this consideration, we basically says, if the inputs for a product is hard to replace and very expensive, then the supply is inelastic. Now let's look at question 20. A price ceiling below equilibrium. Let's get our demand curve and then the supply curve. Okay, use a different color for the supply curve. The price ceiling below the equilibrium means we have something like this. Again, I want to have a different color, or maybe just a green one. So that is the price ceiling. Okay, so will cause a larger shortage. Where is the shortage? It is this area. I will say this is the demand. Doesn't let me make that drawing. Go again. Okay, so this shortage, this arrow is the shortage. This is the quantity demanded higher than the quantity supplied. All right, so we have this shortage. Now we want a larger shortage. And the larger shortage means what? The change in price, right? Again, I will have this equilibrium price here. The decrease in the equilibrium price level. Well, again, get these arrows in. Right, there's a decrease in the price level. Okay, decrease in the price level below the equilibrium, right? It's a change in the price, and then we want high increase in the quantity demanded. So the demand curve goes like that, and we want high decrease in the quantity supplied. The supply curve goes like that, right? Now I have a much larger shortage, right? Of course, I need to say that this was the original equilibrium price level. But basically, in this picture, we have a much larger shortage. What we are talking about is, right, the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded are both very responsive to the price change. So the answer should be very clear, right? If the supply curve or the demand curve is flatter, then you have more elastic supply and more elastic demand, and then the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded will be more responsive. We can draw, again, let's change the color here. For the demand curve, very inelastic demand. And then for the supply curve, make a red one. Oops, I changed the color of the demand curve. Also very inelastic supply. Need to get my demand curve back to blue, right? And then if I have a price drop, right? The shortage, look at this shortage. Shortage is much smaller, right? The shortage is much more smaller. So, this is a very good question because it applies our understanding of the not only the elasticity of supply and demand, but also the price ceiling, price change, its effect. So I like this question a lot. All right, so that's question 16 to question 20 for homework 6.